Let's introduce the next keynote. It's about collaboratively developing the future of internet infrastructure with sustainability, inclusivity, and human-centric approaches at the core of the development process. Our speaker will address questions like what kind of mobile networks can support more devices, more data, richer user experiences, and in particular, immersive multi-sensory experiences. The keynote will be presented by Dimitra Simeonidou, and she's a full professor at the University of Bristol, the co-director of the Bristol Digital Futures Institute, and the director of Smart Internet Lab. She has been the technical architect and the CTO of the Smart City project, Bristol is Open, and she's currently leading the Bristol region's 5G urban pilots. Please give a warm hand to Dimitra Simeonidou. Stage is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And I'm really pleased to be here because finally, I think I found a conference that actually suits what I'm doing in my daily job. It's very hard to find a conference like this, so I really enjoyed the first session, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the program. Talking about my daily job, so like many academics that we have seen already, I have two jobs in my institution. The one is I'm a director of Smart Internet Lab, which is one of the largest communications networks research centers in the UK with 200 academics and researchers. The second one is I'm a co-director of the Bristol Digital Futures Institute. And that really resonates on the digital futures here in Stockholm and the work that you are doing. So within my institute role, myself and my colleagues, we are thinking about futures. Within my research sector and domain, I'm thinking how I can use connectivity infrastructure to enable these futures. So I'm going to take you to one future hypothesis, because in 20 minutes I cannot do more. And this is a future hypothesis. So the future is going to be a future of what we call a cyber-physical continuum. What does this mean? That means that we have our physical world. I mean, we are here all together, but also increasingly we share our time across physical and digital. And we want that translation across physical and digital to be very seamless. So our existence should be quite connected across the two worlds. It should be intelligent and programmable. So what does this mean? It should be customized for our needs, but at the same time, it should be human-centric. So actually, humans, they have to be at the very heart of that cyber-physical continuum. So let's try and analyze this a little bit. So definitely, and we heard this today, even more, in the future, even now, we are going to have more devices, more data. Most of the things are going to be data-driven, and we've seen this around medicine this morning. But actually, what I would like to talk in these 20 minutes is about experiences. So our experiences, yes, they are going to be data-driven, but also we are looking these experiences, especially in that cyberspace, to be richer. So not only visualization, not only immersion, but also sensory experiences coming at the same time to make our digital presence to feel very real, very physical. And for this, we really need, I mean, if you see one of the barriers, of course, barriers are content, but also one of the biggest barriers is actually how we can enable a connectivity, a digital infrastructure that could support this kind of experiences. So we are talking about Internet of Sensing, we are talking about immersive living, we're talking about the metaverse, the holographic society. what we call it, really, what we mean is that cyber-physical convergence. And my question is how we can enable this at scale. So when we are talking, for instance, about the metaverse, can the metaverse be realized at an internet scale, and what the consequences of that is going to be? So this is a future hypothesis, and of course we can talk about these futures quite for a long time, but then come to my own research. So when I try to translate this hypothesis, and I call this cross-disciplinarity really in action, is what it means for me as a telecoms researcher. So my first question is, what are the implications of what I describe in the underlying connectivity in terms of infrastructure and services? That's the first one. The second one, what would happen, how actually with these actions in terms of technology innovation, digital innovation, what are going to be the consequences in key societal challenges? For instance, climate change. If I go to a metaverse environment that is going actually to consume 10 times more the energy of what the internet consumes now, I don't think that is a step that we should take. In terms of inclusion and equity, is that going to be for the few or for all? In terms of trust, poverty, freedom, democracy, and we see all the challenges that we are having. So it's not only innovating in the digital space, it's actually how with our innovation we are addressing societal challenges. And to be honest, in terms of internet engineers and telecoms engineers, we are always have this focus on how we address societal challenges when we are innovating. It just seems that now is the point that this focus should be the dominant focus. So if actually the future of connectivity is going to trigger such a societal change, the question is, should we be doing it alone, or should actually start thinking about collaboration, beyond collaboration, co-creation and co-design? So when I started many, many years ago and decided to become an engineer and then a telecoms engineer, really my expectation was to work on new technologies. And I work on new technologies. I started with optical, then with radio, then, with software and so on. And then I moved in developing digital infrastructure, so new network architectures, new network tools, new network services. And then what happened about 7 to 10 years ago, as telecom engineers, we start actually, talking to what we call the vertical sectors. So we have been doing smart cities, very keen to smart cities. How, for instance, with digital infrastructure, especially communications infrastructure, you can transform urban environments. And then with the introduction of 5G in particular, we start talking 5G for manufacturing, 5G for health, 5G for education, 5G for tourism. I mean, you name it and you had it, because we said here is now the point with what we are doing, that we can not only support but transform, digitally transform sectors. And at this point, we are at a point of maturity of 5G. What I hear from most of the service providers, there is not really a business case for 5G in manufacturing or 5G, for tourism. And also, there is actually quite a lot of concerns around inclusion in what we are doing. Because if you take, for instance, very fast digital transformation in a place like a port or a factory, you don't have the workforce that actually has the skills to sustain themselves active into their workplace. So what we have not done when we are engaging with sectors, we didn't really very from the beginning, we didn't address people and economy. So we look at technology innovation, we looked at sector transformation, but really we didn't ask the hard questions. What does this mean in terms of economy? And even important, what does this mean in terms of people for which we are trying to transform their work or their living environments? So based on this thinking, 3 years ago, we actually created at Bristol what we call the Bristol Digital Futures Institute, or BDFI. And we got quite significant funding. I'm going to talk a little bit about this more, to create interdisciplinary capacity to address really, to ask key questions about new approaches to digital innovation. So to address technology creation, to address technology adoption, but at the same time having the colleagues in place that actually they are going to be question and critique and work with us to answer questions about inclusion, prosperity, sustainability, and all other key societal challenges that we have integrated into our innovation thinking as we are going forward. So this is BDFI, is what I call socio-technical delivery at scale. So we got significant funding from the UK government. We engaged 27 partners that they are actually co-funding by 72 million. And then at the same time, within these 3 years, we have actually created quite significant value in terms of research funding. Now, the premise of that, somebody in the previous panel may mention cross-disciplinary collaboration. We go a step further. So with this actually initiative, we are creating the first, as far as I know, socio-technical laboratories where we are actually looking what kind of methodologies we can develop, what kind of platforms we can develop, not only for collaboration, but also for co-creation and co-design. And so if I look actually at BDFI, open innovation and our principles are about open innovation, it's about human centricity, collaboration and co-creation, and cross-disciplinarity in everything that we are doing. And very quickly, because I see the time is running away, we are working because at the moment we have 20 futures academics that they are spanning across social sciences, humanities, engineering, and computer science, and we have about 100 affiliates, academic affiliates. So we are working across a number of key topics. You are not going to be surprised, from connectivity and computing to digital creative, to net zero, to digital health, to education, to robotics. Now, for every of the technology sectors that you are mentioning here, we have actually underpinning principles that we are looking, if they're relevant. Sustainability, for sure, for all. Intelligence, we talked a lot about AI, and we are going to be talking a lot about AI. So what the intelligence, the role of intelligence in all these sectors. We're asking key questions about regulation and law. We are asking key questions about responsibility and trust, of course around privacy and security, but then we are looking at issues like diversity, equity, inclusion, ethics, and social justice. And of course, it's not me that is doing this work, but I inform my thinking more and more every day, because I have colleagues that they critique and actually they question or they support, they don't need to question all the time, my research hypothesis in my sector, which is telecoms. So let's take that connectivity vertical here, because that's where I'm working. And the future of telecoms is 6G. And we're having here, this event is supported by Ericsson, and Ericsson is a huge contributor to 6G. And I'm going to try to go through this very quickly, but of course, 6G is going to be AI native, so the role of AI in future networks is going to be enormous. We are going to see integrations of network and sensing. We are going to see extreme connectivity in order to support these new applications. I spoke about holographic comms, digital twins, the metaverse, and so on. And we are going to start seeing the role of satellites, the role of non-terrestrial communications more and more. But I would like you to see also these two focus points. The one is around trustworthiness. So really, we have to trust this new generation of networks. So they have to be secure, private, resilient, safe, trusted. And at the same time, we are looking at more and more focus on sustainability. So to make these infrastructures more energy efficient, but at the same time to see how these new infrastructures, they're going to be key contributors to achieving actually net zero targets. So those are important where institutes like the Digital Futures Institute here, my Digital Futures Institute, could have quite critical influence. So 6G applications, what 6G is going to look like, more of 5G, but we are going to have the same new applications like, for instance, I mentioned energy and net zero, very key, really quite a big focus, immersive, I mentioned this, digital twins, but also we see some emerging applications with 6G. We are going to be in the machine era, so we are going to have, for instance, use cases like collaborative robots or cobots, Internet of Senses, and then human-centric services, and none of us really at this moment could define what a human-centric service is going to look like. But it's a challenge that we are actually opening ourselves to see how actually humans could have individual interventions on service customization out of the network in the future. And when we start a new generation of mobile networks, of future network research, there are a lot of things that we are researching, from new hardware to infrastructure evolution, to native AI, to new spectrum, to new software. And now we start looking as well to what is emerging there in terms of quantum. So some of the things, for instance, that we are doing in my research team, we're looking how you can enable multi-access, not only radio, but actually how you can bring radio with your Wi-Fi, in future with Li-Fi, with fiber, and so on. How we can start converging terrestrial networks with non-terrestrial networks, IoT computing. How our networks are going to be AI native. Open networks. I know that Ericsson is supporting this, but we would like to see not only Ericsson, but many Ericssons emerging in the next years, new vendors that they can bring actually equipment into the infrastructure and create new value. So open networking is quite important, and my team also is working on quantum. So maybe I wouldn't go too much detail on that, but we are working on evolutionary, how we can bring AI into the networks. We are working on thinking around disruptions, and that is what is the role of quantum in future mobile networks. I mean, quantum is maturing. We have quantum computing, we have quantum cloud, we have quantum comms, so we have quantum sensors. All these things that we are talking classical networks, we have emerging technologies from the quantum side. Is that going to be a huge disruptor of future communications and future internet as we are making? Now, I talked a lot about tech because I'm a technologist, but where actually my new institute is making a difference. And this is actually in redefining what success is going to look like. So, when every time that we launch a new mobile network and then an actual journalist interview me, the first question is, how many YouTube videos you can download in a minute? And you say, I don't care. Really, I don't care, because that's not what defines a mobile network in the future. It's not actually capacity, data rates, latency. Is what is the user experience? How available is the service for everybody? How sustainable is my infrastructure? Can I trust it? Is it inclusive? Does it actually guarantee my privacy? So I think the next step when we are thinking about human centricity and socio-technical innovation is if success and measuring success moves from KPIs, key performance indicators, to KVIs, what we call key value indicators. So very quickly, I talked about platforms for innovation and platforms for co-creation, because that's important. It is very nice when actually different disciplines sit together in a table and start a conversation. But conversation, it advances the thing, is not always make things happen. So, co-creation example 1, and this is how we co-create networks for the future. And this is credit to my team. They created an Open RAN network in a box, and I'm not going to go into what Open RAN means, but an advanced 5G network in a box with very open architecture, we can take it everywhere. So you see here one of my colleagues, that box is really a full network, and these networks now, in this case, is sitting in the Bristol Harbor in a pirate ship, which is called the Matthew. And it's there because we would like to allow innovation to happen on this platform, both in terms of new hardware, in terms of new software, but in this case, we were supporting the Bristol Harbor Festival, and we were actually supporting digital creators, digital creative applications for the festival. So we have created now, because of the demand, 10 platforms of this, which they go to festivals, they go to factories, they go to the museums, they go even within UK government because they want to play with this. But that is a key platform which is open for innovators to co-create together with the big players, between themselves, new technologies for networking and applications for networking in the future. And I know that my time has finished, but I would like another 5 minutes, if possible. 3 minutes, okay, that's a negotiation. Co-creation example 2. I talked about co-creation on technology. Let's talk about user-centric innovation and the co-creation platform for the users. And within the Digital Futures Institute, part of our funding is to really create what we call a reality emulator. And by the way, Ericsson is going to be part of the delivery and creation of this platform. So this is a dynamic digital twin, the bigger in the UK, which actually is there in order to create and test co-creation and co-design methodologies. And because I only have 3 minutes, I'll tell you what this facility is, and next time I'm going to bring you a real picture, because we are going to have it in place in about 8 months' time. So what it is, it's a huge urban data center that we are putting together for collecting and scaling up data sets coming from different environments, from the city, from the station, from the port, and so on. We run models, digital twinning models on top of that, and we actually, these digital twinning models, they provide services in a immersive environment. And this is a multi-sensory immersive environment and a multi-user one. So what is the idea of that? The idea is that when we actually collect data and create digital models of the futures, users of these models, being a city, a street, a school, a hospital, a manufacturing floor, they are going to be able real time to provide feedback and help with co-optimization of the digital models with the users in the loop. And this is connected actually already with a number of environments around Bristol, and you can see there from smart city to smart campus, to our port, to a science park, to a very rich heritage facility, museum in Bath, across the country. And just very quickly, this is the slide that I present for the first time. We are expanding now this environment by connecting the country to this digital twin. So this is actually a national testbed we are putting together for 6G, and is going to provide us with data from research labs, as research is going to happen, with data from innovation environments around these research labs, and from data actually from collaborative activities across these locations that we are connecting together. So we are preparing probably for the largest amount of data that are going to be generating the last 2 years in order to drive the next generation of networking with humans in the service delivery and in the optimization innovation process. And I'll stop here. I took probably 20 seconds more.
It's okay. Let's have a seat, because we have questions. So please have a seat, Professor. There's a question. What an excellent example of collaboration in practice that you demonstrated here. A question here is, will 6G also lead to an uplift in applications typically utilizing Wi-Fi or Ethernet, or will the new core functionalities of 6G be primarily used for a set of non-overlapping use cases?
Right. I'm actually leading a project in the UK called Reason, which is the first big, large funding that the UK government has given for 6G. And our main premise is on multi-access and multi-technology. I mean, we all believe that as we are moving forward, Wi-Fi is going to play a big role. So we are going to have, of course, radios, advanced radios, new radios, for instance, sub-terahertz, terahertz, and so on. But we cannot forget that Wi-Fi is there. And actually, going forward, we would like to see an architecture that is going to leverage across all access technologies. Not only Wi-Fi and radio, new technologies are coming, like Li-Fi, and also why not? Why not actually integrate fiber broadband with wireless access delivery?
Increasing the complexity.
Increasing the complexity is true, but actually leveraging all access assets, because what we all need is that connectivity, and it has to be, it has to be everywhere, and we have to have the kind of applications and the kind of network that leveraging whatever is there.
There's also a very straightforward question here from a co-worker of AstraZeneca. What is a socio-technical lab? You started describing your lab as a socio-technical lab.
First of all, the reality emulator is a very big part of what we call socio-technical lab, because really it needs that cross-disciplinarity in the methodology building to drive the facility. We do have other parts, like for instance, we have another facility that we are hosting, which is called the Neutral Lab, which is really co-creation in action. So it's a research project itself. And we are looking, by bringing different teams together organically, how these teams behave and how they interact, if there are dominant parts and weak parts, and how we can bring equity into the co-creation. I'm talking like a social scientist, I'm not, but that is what my colleagues are telling me. But I mean, the premise of our institute is, the first step is bringing multiple disciplines together. The second step is opening a fair dialogue. The third step is really developing methodologies and testing them, and you need labs to test these methodologies. And the fourth step is, can we create now these degrees that they are going to educate our people that they could think across, independent of the starting point.
Can I finish by asking you, what would you say is the most critical success factor of the Bristol Digital Futures Institute?
The critical success factor is to enable this co-creation, and that's why we are focusing so much.
Is it leadership?
Leadership,
is it a common vision?
I mean, leadership, we are making a statement in our leadership because we have two directors. One director comes from the social sciences, and the second one, myself, comes from engineering. That is as far as you can go. It is actually how you translate that leadership into practice. And cross-disciplinary practice is very difficult to implement. And we are working tirelessly on that. It's not easy, but it's something that we believe that having the facilities and the focus, and also, if you like, the requirements and the requests from our 27 partners, so they come from very diverse spaces, is actually are going to lead us to that cross-disciplinarity cross-disciplinary practice.
I think it was also interesting that you showed that you're evaluated on the value delivered and not performance. Is
Yes.
that also a success factor?
Oh, that's definitely, and I mean, I cannot attribute this only to the Digital Futures Institute. That's a conversation, for instance, for telecoms that is going across my community. But through my institute, I can take evidence what these values should be like and how we evaluate values.
Thank you so much, Professor Simeonidou, and I know you will be with us, so if you meet her in the corridors, continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.